Is there a possibility, only because of allergies, and we have many people using that during the course of the day, and because of animal allergies, we usually refrain from having the animals in them, because it's like a room.
Well, in any case, it's not possible. It isn't.
Okay.
So.
Well, we have many people with animal allergies.
I
that would be a
understand that.
consideration not to have the dog in there for others.
Okay,
So
does any of them have an anaphylactic reaction?
Well, I mean, I'm not just talking about during the meeting, but
Right, afterwards, yes,
afterwards.
I understand. Is there anybody with an anaphylactic reaction?
that will be at the meeting. I don't think Mrs. Saffarano does.
Right.
Or I don't think Ann does.
Right. So, we're good.
Well, I would ask, and I don't mind, coming in.
I understand you asking, and I appreciate that, and I have to very respectfully decline your request, because I need the dog with me. The dog is not here for fun.
Oh, no.
On a lark. The dog is with me. If I were blind, would you ask me, please, no, that's not the point. If I were blind, would you ask me, please don't take your dog in there? You wouldn't do that, because you understand that blind person needs the dog. It's no different with me. Just because you don't see my problem, it's not visible to you, does not mean it doesn't exist.
No, I'm not denying that. No.
Right.
But I'm only asking, I'm not questioning, just because of consideration for others and allergies and others.
Right. Well, if we were going to do that, then I shouldn't even have the dog in the office.
That's
right.
Exactly.
A blind person, would you tell them they can't come in the office?
We would probably make a special arrangement, only because of the allergy situation.
You would treat them differently from other people because they have a dog?
We're not treating them...
Well, you said special
arrangement. Those are a service dog.
This is a service dog.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
See, it says on her patch, service dog.
Gotcha.
Stop zoning out, Mom.
It's like awake sleeping. It works.
No, it doesn't. It makes me feel weird just sitting there going, hi there. Like,
transportation.
yeah, if you mark off that Sarah brought in the
give me the stuff for... For 8?
Alan, it just comes out that. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so it looks like I don't have anything for topic 7. First is, what do you think?
Oh, fine.
Let me get the book out.
Might have them. Yeah. It's kind of no.
Yeah.
Because it's like it starts testing going.
Is there a particular reason you need the door open?
Yeah, it's really stuffy in here.
Well, I've got a flu and the cold air is really bothering my throat, so it can't be that stuffy.
Sorry.
You can go sit in the room with us if you'd like.
I'm not allowed.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, we're at North Star School. I think it's April 19th.
Probably.
Yes. I expect problems today. So we'll see what happens. I brought a camera with me. I'm going to take a picture of the door prior to our entry before we enter the building to show what its state is before we enter. Let's see.
We're going to go next door. I'll be meeting next door. Okay. So I'm going to take
What
some
for?
things over. I was asked by the principal to move next door.
What for, though?
I just got a call. He asked me, thought it would be better. So,
Move next door.
yeah, there's a big room there. So the dog and everyone can be in one room.
Oh, the dog. It's
Yeah.
about the dog?
Yeah.
Ah, it's about the dog. Alright. This. Follow me. Come on. Staff use phone, let's go around the other side so they can't complain. Yep, it'll work, whatever. I'm gonna ask the principal.
Anyway,
Principal around?
excuse me?
Is the principal around?
No.
Sorry to interrupt.
We have a lead teacher and who's in charge. I can get that person.
The principal is the one he made the decision. He's probably the one I need to speak to.
No one else can help you?
Is he gonna be back later?
No, he'll be back tomorrow.
He'll be back tomorrow. Okay, thank you so very much. Bruce. Yeah, I know. Alright, we're going to the car. Let's go. Got all your stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Not that I got upset.
It's just another instance of them treating us differently because of the service dog. That's all that is. That's alright. We're done. They've admitted it was the dog all along. We're done. Well, it wasn't, but, you know, hey. I knew it was the dog. We were trying to play games, and now they've admitted it's the dog. I'm done. I'm not going to be treated differently, and I'm not going to have you treated differently.
A boy named Ryan.
Oh, you're Ryan.
He was making noises and being inappropriate with the dog, and I told her, she was very flip and said, well, we're not used to having dogs here. I said, that's no excuse. I walk out and I try to explain to the boys that's inappropriate because if you do that to her, she might react and try to come to you and visit, and she's going to get punished.
Yeah.
And he said, well, then I'm going to have to kill her.
Oh,
You know, and then I said, that's also inappropriate. I said, what's your name? He says, my name is Ryan. He just walked down that way.
go that way?
In an orange shirt, very thin.
Yeah,
And-
he's got ADD. That doesn't mean anything, but...
Well, no, it means something.
Okay, thank you.
It means something. But I went to her. She was flip. She's been rude to my daughter. You know, I'm not going to put up with this anymore.
Oh, I know you won't.
You know, so I asked her to deal with it. She was very flip and unconcerned. So I come back out here. I'm harassed by students.
I'm so sorry, my kids aren't like that.
Well, they were and they
sorry.
are. You know, so I just... Okay, I was out here after I left the bathroom to bring the key back, and there was a group of boys here. And they started, you know, making noises at the dog, trying to distract her and get her to come over. And I had to correct her, of course, 'cause she wanted to say hello. And they started making, she wants to say hi, you know. And I walked into the office, I stuck my head in. The secretary has been consistently rude and petty and obnoxious. I stuck my head in and I said, you know, I'm being harassed out here in the hall by these boys, you know, about the dog. And she said, well, we're not used to having dogs here. I said, that's no excuse. You know, they're harassing me. And she just totally didn't care. So I come back out here and they continue to harass me. And I said, boys, this is inappropriate, you know, because if you call to her, you know, she's going to want to visit with you. Right. And I'm going to have to punish her, you know, and then, you know, and then it's going to be your fault. And he says, well, then I'll just have to kill her. So I go back in there and tell the secretary, you know, they are still out there harassing me. Well, they're not used to dogs. I said, that is no excuse. Why don't you get somebody to deal with these children? You know, I've had it. I have absolutely had it with the school district and these people.
Right. Did she get somebody?
He came out, the principal came out.
Did she get him, or did he just come in?
I don't know
Came
if,
and got him. I was meeting with the principal now. And said, hey, the dog's out in the hall.
they want me to cooperate.
The boys are sort of,
I
you know,
there is a perception.
Not enough.
We're fighting. There is a perception.
which one is that?
That color is different.
And so I don't deserve respect.
They don't feel they need to. It's all Paula's fault.
Right,
If she wasn't here in the hall with the dog, obviously this wouldn't be happening.
right.
There is a general perception that is not very welcoming, okay? Instead of treating her like another parent, if this was happening and she didn't have the dog and the parents did, I walked in there, the lady was perfectly nice to me. She did not know I was associated with Paula. I went in there by myself just to see, because what had happened is Paula went in to get the key to the bathroom, so we used the restroom.
Right.
I'm standing over there waiting, and I'm looking in the window. I can see the secretary. And Paula goes in, gets the key, things go okay. Paula comes out with the key. I'm standing there while Paula goes in first. And I noticed there was a boy that had come into the room from the other way and sat down, and she was doing as soon as Paul left, and he's just laughing and just not. Now, I don't know if that's connected.
Sure.
I'm sure that could be a reason. But my instincts,
Say that it had to do with Paul.
it might. It might.
Why do I come to these meetings, Mom, when I get treated like this? Why do I even bother?
I understand what my daughter is. But different doesn't mean you're not
We're all
private. It's like, what a dull world if we're all the same.
No two people are.
No.
And you are not one of those people I'm
Enriched.
speaking of, one of the
This
few in
world
this
would not
district.
be enriched. This is, and I
The basic concept is what's right is right. If
Right.
students are mouthing off to an adult, whether they have a dog or not, the students need to be.
Right. You know, and if she would have said, you know, I'm busy, I got a situation, I'll get somebody, give me just a second, I'd be fine. It was her,
I will
she
say
always
that had
always
I
gives me a
stepped
flip
out in the hall,
attitude.
I would have said something.
Well, Mom,
I would have just said, "Boy, she didn't make it."
Mom, the first time I showed up here that she saw the dog, I was on the way to Brianna's IEP meeting, and I was late. And I came into the office, and she started giving me a hard time about the dog. And I said, she's a service dog, she's allowed by federal law, thank you very much. Which room? Yo, I was in a hurry, I was,
No time.
I was abrupt, but I
Yeah,
wasn't,
time to chat.
right, ever since. You know,
So, I just feel that this district is not very well for
good
young
girl.
people, shall we say. I
Good
worked
girl.
in Logan Unified for many years. I worked in Galt for a year, worked special ed. And we have a lot of different people in special ed. There's a reason why they're in special ed a lot of times. So you have to learn to kind of go with the flow,
Right.
the punches, and you surprise yourself because you find out things you didn't understand or know before. And you're grateful for that knowledge.
Sure.
Because it enhances you as a person when you're more open.
Right, and I think as a strategy to work with people, you can't really ever underestimate the importance of trying to see somebody and trying to look into a person's eyes and really listen.
Just
Right,
listen,
right.
don't, even if you've made a
Don't-
judgment, keep it to yourself
You can
and give
make
it
a
some time.
prejudgment. What I do is when I have a negative experience with somebody for the first time, I go, okay, all right, now maybe this is a bad day for them.
Yeah, maybe they had a bad
I
day.
have to have several interactions before I finally say, okay, well,
But if we start, when you work in a school, if you start drawing lines in the sand and say, well, if somebody crosses this line, then I want to help them. Or if somebody looks like this, then I want to help them. If somebody doesn't do this when they come to me, I'm not going to help them.
yeah.
You know, you put yourself in a position where you can't really work with a lot of folks. And before I came to Amador, I was a high school principal for 6 years. And so when you have that responsibility, you don't get to pick and choose who you talk to.
That's
Right.
right.
Every single problem at the school
That's
came
right.
to my office.
Yes.
185.
So you're
days a
used to
year,
problems?
From 7 in the morning until 10 at night.
My father used to be a high school principal.
So
I know what you're talking about.
I sympathize with you.
I understand.
You basically spend all day talking to people about problems.
And
you
they're
don't have anything
upset.
to do with.
Yeah, right.
Exactly, exactly.
So I'm sort of in my comfort zone.
So
I hope so, because you know
I'm very
what?
comfortable in this setting.
I think you are one of the few people in the district that don't apply to these people.
And I don't think
You
I
know,
will.
and
I don't
it's-
think I ever will.
I don't think,
Apply to that.
I don't think you will.
I won't.
Don't give up your inhibition.
And you know what?
I never will.
They're putting you, and I feel bad because I like you. I feel bad that the district is putting you between me and them. And I'm gonna have to go through you
Well,
to be at them. And it's not fair. It's because you didn't do anything and you're not that
And
person.
we realize.
but my priority are Brianna
Right,
and Ian.
and I just.
Not anyone back at the district office.
Right.
Not anyone
Right.
here. My-
Guard yourself
my role
carefully.
As an administrator is to ensure their due process, because they're the only advocate they have.
Yeah, but what if the
Administrator.
district lays on you? Because they will.
Yeah.
I've been to the superintendent. He says all the nice and right things.
Well, I can
and
only
then-
do what I can do as well.
Right.
But we
I don't
under-
run the district.
Right.
We
And do my part.
understand, we
Right.
understand.
Do what you can do
I
and then
just-
clear out.
we just-
Get out of my way.
We just, I think you're finding, what's happening here is you're finding fault at the other end of the spectrum at this point.
And
after years
Well,
of stuff.
they thought I was trouble
Yes,
before. I
to
was
that
being
point.
nice.
And I'm not gonna do anything in the next however number of weeks we get to work together. I'm not gonna do anything to harm your kids.
Right.
Good.
I'm only
I don't
gonna
think
do
you will,
Yeah.
but I think there are
I'm gonna
lots of
do
people in the
what I
district
can
that
do
will.
to help.
Right.
And I can't do any more than I can do.
Right.
That's right.
And I'm not gonna do any less than I can do.
Right, and that's
We
fine,
understand
because
that.
I can pick up the rope and carry it the rest of the way. I'm very capable of doing that.
I raised you.
Let me go and I'll show you what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've got stuff in my car, I gotta,
We should probably walk over to that.
yeah, it's getting time.
It's your meeting.
Do you want me to do history?
It's up to you.
He's heard the history.
Yes.
Everybody else is not. Do you want me to do the history?
Fine.
Okay, then I will do the history. And you can take a nap. Mr. Ochoa, you've heard this already.
Paul's going over the history that she's had with the district for the last 5 or 6 years. We mention it because we feel it's relevant for what's been happening.
What's occurring now? Okay. I entered the school district in 2006, about December, 2006-2000 school year. Things are pretty good, except that I tried to go on a field trip with my son to some caverns. They had a problem with the service dog on the bus, but I said, you know, you have to allow it by law. It was resolved, no harm, no foul. In 2007, 2008, a teacher, Ms. Mandison, illegally withholds Brianna's report card because of a library book. I didn't think that was correct. I called the Department of Education and they informed me that it was illegal for her to do that. I then contacted the principal and said, you can't do this, I want the report card. The teacher is forced to give the report card when she didn't want to. A matter of 2 weeks later, there was an accident at home and Brianna's glasses were broken. I took her an hour to Stockton the same day to have them fixed. It was unintentional. The teacher was not happy with me and she called CPS. She did not ask to determine if it was an accident or if it was on purpose, the result of something on purpose. She simply called CPS. CPS came out to my house and found that there was nothing wrong, nothing had occurred. In 2008 and 2009, Mr. White, who was an outstanding principal, he's barely able to keep a lid. I guess talk had gone around. The office staff wasn't real thrilled with me. Some of the teachers were not real thrilled with me. And he managed to keep a lid on them, but they were really disrespectful and dismissive of me. By that time, Brianna had gone up to junior high. I assisted her in doing a presentation about my service dog. The principal there asked me, you know, why is the dog here? And I was glad to answer his questions. In 2009, 2010, Mr. White leaves. There is a temporary principal there. The teachers for my son had asked if they could kind of cue him on his personal hygiene. 11 years old, he kind of doesn't care about showers. I told them I was working with him and they asked if they could nicely, you know, have deodorant cue him at school. I said, sure, not a problem. That went on for a while. Towards the end of the school year, my son comes home and says that he needs to kill himself. He needs to die. He shouldn't be on this earth because he's stinky, smelly, nasty. Nobody is ever going to like him. And I say, why do you say that? He said, because the adult said so. And I said, did the adult say that exactly? He said, well, no, but it amounts to that. So I barrel into the office. I tell the principal that her nor her staff will mention another word about my son's hygiene to him, or I will sue them. I absolutely will not have another minute of it. You know, when I said they could help him, I said they could help him, not, you know, emotionally drive him into the ground. They had formally asked if they could give his medication to him at school because they chose not to believe me when they would ask me if I was giving it, and I told them yes. They just chose to assume that I wasn't doing that. So then they moved to have the medication given in the office. I soundly refused that as well at that time. At the same time, we had a bus driver, and she wasn't really on schedule. I mean, not by a minor amount, but a big amount. She was not on schedule. I went to the bus shed and I complained. You know, I need something a little steadier to rely on to get my kids to school, you know, in the morning. I was pretty much dismissed, ignored. The bus driver was told. The bus driver took issue because then I started documenting with a camera when she was arriving and leaving, and she didn't like that. And then I had complained. She started targeting my children. She would threaten to write them up for stuff she let other kids do. She, on one or two occasions, did write them up for stuff she let other kids do. Worst of all, she started making comments about my son's odor in front of the bus full of kids. It was not long before all the kids picked it up. And then when the CPS worker came in, after I yelled at the principal and said, "You will stop this now," a matter of a week later, CPS was called. And I don't even know how to classify what the complaint was. Apparently I was not doing whatever a mother is supposed to do when an 11-year-old boy isn't interested in his hygiene. And it just so happened that that bus driver just happened to be in the office the day the CPS worker showed up to talk to the principal. And she added her 2 cents in that I was a horrible mother and that I wasn't bathing my children as if they were infants. She comes to my house. She finds the house spotless clean, folded laundry on the couch. I had been doing laundry that day. She found it was unfounded. Once again, retaliation for, standing up for myself. In 2010, 2011, my daughter was in the junior high. She had problems with some teachers, Miss Personini and Ms. Glock, yes, the superintendent's wife, giving Brianna a hard time because she had a 504. They wanted to do things their way. And when she let them know she had a 504, they tried, I don't know if they knew before and were trying to avoid the issue, or if they didn't know at all. I don't know. She informed them she had a 504. At that point, they had to follow the 504, but they were clearly resentful about it because they started taking little actions in the classroom, like the teacher would go around and pick up certain papers, the certain paper they do. She'd go around and pick it up. She would always conveniently miss Brianna's paper, so Brianna would have to go up to her desk to turn it in, and she'd give her a little bit of a hard time about turning it in at that time. Ms. Glock didn't want to accept computer-generated work, and when she had to, she still, gave her a hard time. That same year, which we're getting pretty close up to now, that year, what Miss Personini did is she publicly humiliated my child in front of a whole class of kids, to the point where she was crying so hard she could barely breathe. This followed on the heels of the principal, Mr. Murray himself, and Mrs. White. They were tag teaming her, making inappropriate comments. They were picking at her. They weren't, "You did something wrong, we're instructing you," type thing. They're just picking at her. And the lady, she went into the library, those ladies were picking at her, the adults, not just the children. But when the children saw the adults picking at her, then they picked it up and they started picking at her. She calls me crying so hard she can barely breathe. I say, "I'm coming. Hold on, stay at the office. I'll come and see what's going on." Half an hour later, after I get some gas, I show up and she's still breathing or crying so hard she can barely breathe. I had to calm her down just to get her so she could talk rationally. I go into the office. I tell Mr. Murray, in no uncertain terms, what I think of his behavior and that of his staff, and that I no longer trust them with my child if they are going to behave like that. I don't trust them with my child, and she is not coming to school the last 3 days. He brought up that there was graduation practice, and I said, "I will bring her in the morning for graduation practice. I will stay throughout, and I will take her home." And he said, "Fine." So that is what I did for the last 3 days. We go to graduation, everything is fine. Because of this happening, I'm not trusting the adults. I mean, they're not instructing her, they're not behaving professionally with her. They are mad at her and they're picking at her, in a way adults never should. So I go with her to the dance. I'm at the dance a few minutes. The principal, Mr. Murray, who formerly I said, asked about my dog, and I told him what, the purpose for my dog. He comes in and says that I need to leave because of the dog. And I, why? Because the board has policies. And I said, well, their policies don't trump federal law. I'm not going. And he said, if you don't leave, I'm going to call the police. And I said, please do. And he did. He had a parent volunteer that was picking at me, harassing me, a couple of various staff members hanging out with her that were picking at me and harassing me. I went outside to collect up the papers that I knew I was going to want to show the police officer. I tried to go back in the building. They stopped me and they say, "We don't want you in the building. You should wait outside." And I said, "I'm not going to do that unless Mr. Murray gives me a signed statement that he wants me to leave because of the dog, wait outside because of the dog, and he signs it and hands it to me, then I will wait outside." I got dirty looks, of course. I didn't care. I asked, when the police officer comes, can somebody wave to me? Because I was sitting at a bench right near that door. I said, "Can somebody wave me down and I will come outside and speak to the police officer?" They did not do that. I did that so Brianna would not be humiliated or embarrassed or her special day ruined. That was not done. They paraded the officer through the dance looking for me. I waved him down personally, went outside, showed him papers. He turns around and tells Mr. Murray that he must allow me in the dance, that I am legal. Mr. Murray allows me in the dance. The officer leaves. Halfway through, I need to take the dog out to do some business outside. I know what's going to happen. It's not my first rodeo. I tell Brianna, I'm going to step outside with the dog to take care of business. You know the drill. You know what probably is going to happen. She sits by the door and watches the door carefully. I come back with the dog. I knock at the door. The doorkeepers, which is that parent organizer and some of the staff ladies, are right that far from the door. There's a window in the door. I knock at the door. They pretend not to know that I am there. But Brianna, which is some distance farther away, can hear me knock and can see me through the window, and she watches them ignore me. So finally, she goes towards the door to open the door to allow me in. They give her dirty looks to warn her off, authoritative dirty looks. So she turns to go to the other door. When she does that, I have squished up against the wall where they can't see me from the window. Welcome to my life. It's fun. I squished up next to the wall where they can't see me out of the window. Because if they don't see me, perhaps when somebody else walks up, they're going to open the door. Because understand, by now, they have my daughter that they have already somewhat abused. I don't trust them with my daughter, and they have her locked in a building away from me. This is not going to happen. So I wait there. When she goes towards the other door, they don't see me. They wonder where I've gone. They open the door. And at that point, I came away from the wall, put my hand on the door so they couldn't shut it, and I said, "Thank you very much." And I start going through the door. The parent organizer steps farther into the doorway to try to block me with her body. I'm not having it. I push through anyway. So then the door shuts. I go sit down quietly, and I'm in a corner away from the dancers, away from the kids. I try to stay out of the way. She comes over and starts yelling at me that I shoved her, I pushed her, I have no right to be getting physical with her. I didn't do anything for this dance. I didn't help organize this dance. I have no business at this dance. So I was harassed. And then I think it was her husband, walked by a couple times giving me very dirty looks. So I was harassed the rest of the night. I go to the superintendent. He says all the nice and right things and doesn't do anything. No surprise. So 2011, 2012, we're here. So Brianna's at the high school. We go to the high school. She needs her 504 updated. At the very beginning of the year, just a routine thing, I asked for her 504 to be updated to have a meeting. Right a day or two before the meeting, the vice principal says that she doesn't want my service dog at the meeting. And furthermore, she really doesn't want my service dog in any of the buildings. So I'm like dumbfounded. I go home. I finally decide my two options at this point is to push through like I did with Brianna and do what I want to do anyway, or to let them have their way. I'm getting sick and tired of this. I just said she can have her way. I'm not going to go to the meeting. So they showed up for the meeting. I was not there. Later on, she called me and said, "Why were you not at the meeting?" And I said, "You told me that, the dog wasn't welcome. If the dog can't come, I can't come. I have the dog for a reason." "Oh, well, you could have brought the dog. It's okay. You should have known." How should I have known? She made it very clear I wasn't welcome and didn't make it very clear at all that she had changed her mind. So we rescheduled this 504 meeting. And this goes on and on. I rescheduled the 504 meeting. We have the 504 meeting. And Ann Roth and a couple of people talked to my dog before and after talked to my mom before and after the meeting about my dog. We have the meeting. It's a nice meeting. Ann Roth says she needs to do some more testing on my daughter. You know, could I bring her to the school for testing? And I say, sure. We make an appointment for the next morning to bring my daughter to the school for testing. I show up with my daughter. I want to go with my daughter to her testing. Ann Roth says, you cannot go. And I'm like, well, why can't I go? Oh, well, because of the dog. I'm like, because of the dog? Well, we have a child with allergies in our class. Oh, I'm like, poor baby, you know, he goes into anaphylactic shock. That must be horrible. Well, no, not that bad. But he's got allergies. You can't go. I said, well, you know, maybe we could go into just a different room, you know, so we don't bother him. No, you can't go. So I can call the police and make a big snit fit on campus and embarrass my daughter further in front of what is going to be her peers or should be her peers. I decide, no, I'm not going to do that. We'll let this one ride. The superintendent asked that I write him a letter about what's going on because the vice principal is otherwise not behaving very well. So I dropped that off at the superintendent's office. I have the secretary notify him that morning what Ann Roth did. So we get transferred to North Star eventually because she is having more severe problems. Meanwhile, my son, he rides a bus home. On his bus, the kids were bullying him because of his disability. And it gets worse than that. The bus driver was participating and initiating some of this bullying. So I had to deal with that, you know, his problems on his bus, his emotional state, having to deal with these problems on this bus. Nobody in the district listens to me or takes me seriously. So I'm on my own here. So then I'm over here at North Star, and that is where this meeting begins.
Paula's been putting up with this for 10 years. How do I know? Because I've been with her every step of the way. She calls me almost every day. I call her almost every day. I am her support system. I'm now 66 years old. I'm tired. I have physical conditions, one of which is very directly exacerbated with stress. It is a stressful life that she lives because of other people's inability to accept her disability and her right to have a service dog. And I can't tell you how proud I am of her. Because she's not just doing this for herself. She's doing it for the people that come behind. The only way the world gets changed if people are willing to stand up and be counted. And for that, I'm proud of her. I realize how my daughter appears. I have no illusions. I understand. But I also know the real her. And I know who she is because I raised her. And I'm proud of the job I did. She's not perfect, but I did my best. We have a problem here, and she's no longer going to take this anymore. So this may sound petty, this may sound ridiculous, but she is no longer going to put up with this kind of discrimination. She's no longer going to allow people to deny her what is her right as a human being and as a citizen of this country. And if that means we have to have a multitude of meetings, that's what it means. We have a problem here. And I wanted to talk to you about it to find out exactly what happened from your perspective. Can you tell me?
I'll try. What I was notified was that when Paula is in that room 5, with all those students, there's 2 teachers in there and Miss Ethel Allen, and so there's a multitude of students in there with the dog. Mm-hmm. One of those students, I can't give her name because she's a juvenile, is allergic to the dog. I received a phone call from the mother of that dog, that student, letting me know of the allergenic condition of her daughter. She had notified me she called the district to complain about the dog and her daughter's allergy to the dog. So I received a call from her regarding that. I never heard from the district office if that phone call from the mother ever occurred. But I did speak to the mother myself, and I decided to make a decision. And my decision was since there is an allergic condition and the dog is in there with this girl who's allergic to the dog, as Brianna's having her appointment, the teacher who's here today, Mrs. Tracy Brown, is having her appointment with a girl with an allergic condition. I didn't want the dog to suffer from the allergy. I also didn't want to deny Paula Brianna, her educational right for an education, which is her constitutional right. So, to make both parties, what I thought fair to both parties, to continue her education, and to continue the girl's education without being the dog's allergy affecting her. I thought that my only decision at the time was, because I was, at the time I don't think I was here, I was vetting for a job down south. So I made the call to put Paul in here with her daughter, Brianna. So it was a least restrictive environment in this room where there would be no interruptions, there'd be no interference with her education, it wouldn't be impeded, her right to learn, by putting her in here with the teacher over there, Kathy Snyder.
They could use a smart board.
And they could use a smart board, thank you. So there would be a great table here, no interruptions, and her education, weekly appointment would occur in here and would not be interfered with. Yes, the dog would be moved, and Paul would be moved, but we were giving Brianna a right to an education on that next appointment, that next week, and nothing would be changed with her appointments. So I made the call to move her here, so she'd get her education, and yes, the dog would be moved, but she'd still get her education. And the girl out there would get hers too. That's what I did. I didn't consult the district. I didn't know of this 10-year history. I just did what I thought was right. I've always believed the right thing to do is the right thing. And I thought that was the right thing to do.
No, I just wanted to know.
Okay. Yeah.
So in essence, Paula would be separate but equal.
Gosh, it's funny. Today's the anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education, 58 years ago today. I was not looking at separate but equal. I was not looking at it that way.
I'm not trying to accuse you of anything.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's not what I'm trying to do.
Right.
What I'm trying to say here is that there are a multitude of ways to resolve these issues.
Sure.
If they're, a real issue. No one came and talked to Paula. It's amazing to me that no one comes and talks to Paula. Now, I got a little secret for everybody. I have 2 daughters. My younger daughter graduated from UC Davis with a double major, and she went to law school. She's working for the state of California now. A bright girl. I got news for you. This one's bright, too. She's mentally ill, not mentally retarded. And, yes, she is affected by the condition that she suffers from. It's genetic. We weren't aware of it till she was a freshman in high school. So people have a tendency to make value judgments when they look at her. She is a little different, I understand that, but she's also very intelligent. And if people would come to her and talk to her and give her an opportunity, they might be surprised. You might even get to know her, you might even get to like her, but she is not unwilling to be working with people. That does not happen.
And do you have any idea what federal law says about that situation that you just described?
We understand that he's trying to resolve it, but
I know, but does he have any idea what federal law says about it?
Could you explain a little more? I don't think I understand what you're saying.
Well,
would you like me to explain
according
it?
to service dogs and that kind of situation, there's clauses in there that describe that and what you may or may not do. Evidently, there's nobody in the school district that even bothers to look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think
And I have sympathy for the girl, but that could be construed as being the wrong thing to do also.
It wouldn't be
Can I
construed,
say
it would be
with that whole
found.
situation, like what happened, he was gone, you were down south for like the whole week.
Yeah.
And I figured that he had first told you, hey, because I work in this room sometimes. I don't know if you know that. Like Doug sees students in here. I work in here actually some of the time I'm in
Doing
here. I've got my
labs and
plants and stuff in here. And then we have the other room next door, so we are spread out. And I figured that he had said something, and then I was like, and so then I was with another student when she came in.
I wonder who else he talked
I didn't
to.
know that she didn't have a heads up.
Well,
because I think had he explained
that's
it
my fault.
to, had you explained it, and I know you were gone.
Yeah.
Then, I guess I thought maybe he came up with a really good solution because, we have a room and...
Well, I think we need to get into this a little more, and I think it'll be more clear why that was not considered a good solution. Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right. I just wanted to know what happened on your end.
Yeah.
We are here to try to figure this out. And I'm not here necessarily to indict you because you're not in the classroom and you don't know what's going on all the time. But I see that you're trying to solve it. Whether it's a correct resolution or not remains to be seen. I just wanted to know. I'm just saying that no one talked to Paula. And this is not uncommon. Decisions are made for Paula without consulting with Paula the way you would with another parent. And that in itself is not appropriate. You know, I think you'll find if you come and talk to her, she will be willing to listen to your side of it. If she objects, she'll let you know. But that's not what's happening. Now, do you want to go on with what the rest of this?
Sure.
We have a problem.
Yeah, I don't believe the problem is what you were told. No, I'll continue.
I don't know if we really have a problem with the dog, you know.
I can continue with my history now, if you'd like.
Well, first of all, I think Kathy brought up a good point. I take blame and responsibility for not consulting you.
Well, we don't have a problem with the dog.
I'm sorry about that. My concern was the education of the child.
We understand that.
And I know you do, and I'm sorry I ignored the rights of the dog. I was not aware of the federal law of
The dog has no rights. The dog's a dog.
The service
The
worker.
dog's a medical device.
Right, the dog's like a wheelchair. I'm the one with the rights.
Okay, all right.
She's the one with the rights. You want me to continue with my...
Well, I just wanted to hear what...
Oh,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, it's not having the service dog. It's the dog a lot of times, you know, farts. And that's what is really hard for, you know, I have 2 students that sit in the back. And, you know, I have a student who's coming from Argonaut with severe anxiety. And she's there. And it was the farting, the cigarette smoking. There's a lot of smells in the room. And I think that's where my student is.
Do you have people smoking in your room?
Well, we have, at that time, there's cigarette smells and the dog smells, and it's just all encompassed.
Well, I never saw anybody smoking. No.
She was just getting very anxious at that time, and so that's why, you know, I want you to, from me, it's not just the dog, it's the time that the dog is there, it's just the smells. And so that's...
The smells,
the passing of the gas of the
okay,
dog.
we can address that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, I want to be, you know...
No, we
it's
have
not
no
the dog.
we have no
So,
problem.
I mean, you know, it's
have
got to be clear here because,
I agree.
you know...
I agree. We should lay it out on the table.
Right, and I agree, we have no problem with that. But then again, this is what we're talking about. No one came to Paula and discussed that with her. No one approached her and talked about that with her.
So the problem with the gas, why don't you ask her the last time we had gas?
When is the last time the dog passed gas?
It's been every time. It's been, you know, it's been...
Non-stop? Every time Paula comes?
I've received
Yeah.
complaints about the dog. From the
Every
staff.
time?
They do complain about it to me.
Yeah, I mean, we have, it's just the...
I'm sure they do.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, the kids...
So it's, no,
So it's not the dog. It's not the service dog.
well, yes it is, because the dog is the one that's passing gas. Correct?
Yes, but
Okay.
what, I'm just saying, you know, it's like, I'm just saying that's with, you know, I'm just saying that you know, there's other students that are here at North Star for reasons, and unfortunately they're pretty, you know, we work with a lot of kids,
I understand.
especially this one girl is, you know, she can't even go in her car sometimes to Folsom because she has such severe anxiety. Just getting her to school is, you know, it's like no one's life sometimes is perfect. And so we're, you know, I'm just saying.
So, no, I'm just saying.
Wanted you to know that there's, you know. There's
Right. But we can address the dog's gas. If anyone,
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just going to say, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
No,
didn't hear you.
no, wait.
Oh, the only thing, what my staff's concerns are, what I hear is that the concern is that the gas is interfering with other students' right to learn.
I understand what you're saying.
And so as a principal of a school, I have to be concerned with everybody's right to learn and my staff's right to teach. And that's where I get involved, is that I believe that dog, at times when it passes the gas that Tracy brought up, it's interfering with a learning situation
I have a question.
and the right to learn. Go ahead.
Talking allergies? Or are we talking some kind of a disruption?
A disruption.
Okay, so it's not allergies, it's more
Well,
about a
that we were
disruption?
told, I don't know from that parent, that parent needs to go to.
I was
the
asking him.
Well, it's a good question.
Well, see, I'm unclear, you said allergies,
Yes, I've got that issue too.
and then you turn around and, understandably, there's, an issue about gas,
Yes, it sure is.
but it was like, oh, there's allergies. But then there's gas, and there's gas, and there's complaints, and there's gas. So I'm naturally asking, well, it sounds to me like it isn't about allergies, it's about gas.
Let me
And
make
a
this-
disruption the gas causes.
Let me make this point. Have any of you smelled any gas? How long has this meeting been going?
About 25
Did you
minutes.
ask anything about why the dog was doing that? If we did anything to take care of that? No.
Actually, no, I did.
The
one
dog
time
has
ask-
not
I-
had gas
Yes.
for quite a
Can I-
while
can I-
Yeah, you
I'm
did.
sorry.
because of
No,
the
one time, I don't know when it was, and the gas was really
I
bad
told
one
you I
time.
realized we had a
Yeah.
problem and I was gonna
Yeah.
look into it.
Yeah,
she
and
did.
Yes.
so for me, I haven't smelled it every time, but like, it's different days.
And that's
Some days-
really odd because I sit right outside your open door every time.
I have, no,
And you haven't smelled it every
no, I
time.
haven't.
And
I-
she's
I-
way at the back of the room and
I-
she smelled it every
Well, I don't know
time.
if she, but maybe some.
Well, she said she did.
Well,
She said she
Well, her
did.
students
We
do
do
report
have
to her
students who are complaining.
All right,
So
well-
as you can imagine,
Yeah, but we haven't been able to
Yeah.
get to the point.
Right.
All right. The point is that when this started to occur, and you said something, Paula's nose told her immediately. She's more connected to this dog than anybody.
It's at my feet.
So
It
she
rises.
knew there was a problem because the dog did not normally do that. So she looked into it. She told you she was going to look into
Yeah.
it. Obviously, it takes a little bit of time to figure out what's causing this problem. And she found out eventually the dog was getting into the chicken feed at home. We weren't sure whether it was the chicken feed.
Yeah.
So the dog was itching and scratching and having hot spots, which she keeps the dog really clean, so there was no reason for that. So first we thought it was the chicken feed. So they made sure that the dog cannot get into the chicken feed.
For a matter of weeks.
But the gas kept, it happened.
Continued.
So then she realized it must be the food. If it wasn't that, then there's some internal problem with the dog and she would take it to the vet. So she was eliminating the food.
I had 4 different flavors of the same food I fed her.
Exactly.
And each bag lasts 2 weeks. And I decided I would go through a bag and notice the effects. Now, if I hit a bag that caused her to have gas, I would know. And I would pull her from that immediately.
Well, we're doing that exactly right now with our dog.
So
I know
you're
exactly
understanding.
what
It,
you're talking
it
about.
takes weeks of
This
time to
morning
run
was
through
a
these
bad
trials.
morning and last night, so we're switching food.
So we
Okay, I
found
understand
out that it
Okay.
was within the same brand, that we found out which formula was causing the gas.
And it happened immediately.
And she put the dog on the lamb formula, no more gas.
Right. We figured the
Okay.
problem
When
out.
was this?
This was
Mid-March.
mid-March. She has not had gas.
She has not had gas since mid-March.
So whatever you're smelling after mid-March could have been a student, not the dog.
Right.
Because the dog goes with her everywhere she goes. I've had the dog at my house.
Mr. Ochoa, did you have any gas last time? Any
The
gas?
dog?
I didn't.
No, from the dog. The last IEP meeting, it went over an hour. Was there any problem?
No, and
No.
no one in the room commented.
And
Right.
no.
Yeah, because
So,
it's been solved
We
since
have
mid-March.
solved that issue. Unfortunately, though, no one came to Paula
Right.
and talked to her about it. No one was attempting
Can I have
to
a
work
moment?
with her.
Can I have a moment?
Yes, you can.
What really gets to me is, sometimes, there was a couple times she had really bad gas. The rest of the times it was generic, And it gets me first. What gets to me is that when she's having gas, you know it. You can't miss it. And by default, when she's not having gas, you can't miss it. Yet Tracy is sitting here and saying that it was every time. Even when it was happening, it was not every day. It would be 2 weeks, because one bag is 2 weeks. And the bad formula, she'd come here maybe 2 weeks in a row and have gas. and then she'd be switched to another flavor that didn't bother her. So she'd go for 2 weeks, again, with no gas. And if I didn't feed her that same formula, she'd go for another 2 weeks without gas. About half the time during that time period she had gas, I'll admit. You know, it's been fixed, yet, you know, this is part of the problem. Tracy is sitting here saying that it was every time. This is part of the problem.
Well, Tracy has come to me when the dog has given off gas before March.
Right, and she was. I admit she was.
For a staff member, it is a very uncomfortable issue to approach a parent with this issue.
Right.
They will come to me, and I'll take the blame for not coming to you, not them. I don't think it's their responsibility to come to you, because they're, especially Tracy, she's not your daughter's teacher, but it is mine, and I take the blame for not sharing that with you.
I think that there's more than just that.
There's more than just that.
Okay.
I think that you are unaware of quite a few things.
Paula, is that?
I don't think Tracy should.
Eventually,
Yeah.
depending.
Yeah, I don't want to put that on Tracy.
I think that,
Okay, sorry.
well, no, I'm just saying that
Right.
there was more than that, though.
Okay.
Do you want me to go through what happened?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
right.
So we got flipped over here to North Star. The first day I arrived, when I walked in the room, she looked a little confused. Miss Snyder looked a little confused about the dog, kind of, you know, which is normal. Right, which is normal. You know, Tracy looked distinctly unhappy, but that's not unusual either. Sometimes I find when I go into a place, there are people that aren't so hip about it. But over time, you know, they learn it's not a big deal, and you know, it's not a big thing. So, you know, she wasn't real happy. There was another student, and we were kind of, me and Brianna were chatting, trying to fit in and get to know the other kids. There was a student that mentioned that she had been, she had left her school and come here due to some mistreatment on the part of some adults. Things were not going well with the adults. And I said, you know, don't feel bad, because there was this court case not too long ago for Amador High School, the Zisman case. And I start telling her about the Zisman case and how some adults over there had not behaved too properly, and that there had been a lawsuit and the school district had settled. Tracy breaks in and says in a very irritated tone, "You need to not talk about that. You don't know what you're talking about." And I looked at her and I said, "But yes, I do. I've read the filed complaint and the settlement agreement." Let's see. Yeah, right there. I read those two things. I do know what I'm talking about. She looked pretty pissed off that I had anything to say back, and she shut up, and, you know, I talked for a few more minutes with the student, and I shut up. The first bout of gas, which was really horrible, happened the next was it?
It was really bad.
It was.
We were like,
that
oh my
was
God.
bad.
It was really bad.
We agree.
I was like, oh
yeah,
my student, we didn't know what to do. Oh,
it was bad.
Paula was humiliated and embarrassed.
I bet
at
you
her
were.
job.
I mean, I bet.
Yeah.
It hadn't
I know we
happened
didn't,
like
'cause
that
we didn't know
before.
what to do.
That had
She
never
didn't either.
happened before.
Like we
The
tried.
dog had not been doing that.
Yeah, we tried going to a different area to
Right.
yes, and then I have a cave. Nothing goes out of the cave once it comes in. So it was. Yeah, that was a hard.
So anyway, the gas happened. There was a big scene that occurred.
Yeah, I think it was. We were pretty much.
Yeah, you guys were running around. Oh my God, this is so horrible. Oh my God, somebody get the doors. Somebody get the windows. I get it that it wasn't great.
But we were trying.
But if a person would have done that, would you have behaved that way?
If a person.
If it was a person that had made that smell,
No person can. I mean, it
I
was
can.
So,
I can make that
I
smell.
understand it's how bad, but what I'm saying is, would you have behaved the way you did if it was a human
I
being?
would have tried to open up every single window.
Right, but would you have made the, oh my God, this is so horrible, oh my God, shouting across the room, are you getting the door, I'm getting the window? I mean, would that have occurred if it had been a person?
I think we understand. You felt that it was an overreaction.
Well,
but we shouldn't speculate as to what we would or wouldn't.
But what
do.
I'm saying,
Yeah, I think we were kind of. We weren't expecting.
Right, okay.
So, you know, we were like, what do we do? You know,
right.
we were
Well, anyway, doors and windows were opened. I get it. I totally get it. You know, we needed to air out the room. I was shocked at the response. I sat there. I didn't know what to do for, you know, a good several minutes. You know, eventually I did take the dog out.
And you came to me.
Right, and I told you how embarrassed I was.
And I listened.
Yeah, and you listened. You said you'd speak to them.
I think I did.
It was the manner and the way it was handled, what we're
Yeah.
commenting on.
Right,
Instead of
comment.
just quietly walking over and opening the door or opening the window, you know, Vinny or Paul, do you think you
know-
could take the dog out?
Yeah, that was
You
like
know what, we
totally.
didn't know at
Did
first
she
what it
take-
was.
I know,
You know
but-
how you're like, I mean, I didn't know what it was. So, I mean, you can see like us too,
Right.
like, and then my student was like, what is that? You know, we didn't know at first.
Right.
And then we're like, oh my God.
Is
So-
it the dog? Is it the dog? Yeah, I
I
know.
mean, it was
Did
just so
Paul-
pungent.
Okay.
I still remember the
It-
smell.
it was-
very pungent.
It was very bad. It was very bad.
Paula, real quick, I'm sorry, you made kind of a charge at Tracy. I never got a chance to answer that charge just now.
Well-
you have the opportunity to maybe answer what you said about...
Well, she probably will want to wait until I'm farther through.
all right.
And then you go off.
And then she can say whatever she wants.
We understand, yeah, that was, you know, we understand that. Did Paula take the dog out?
Yeah, you did, right? Yeah. I mean, you probably knew right
Immediately.
away. We didn't,
Yes.
because you know,
Right.
like we're just in there. We didn't even.
Right.
That's the first time
My
that
first thought
happened.
was, oh my God, I can't believe she did something this horrible bad. What do I do? You know,
That's kinda how we
what I
were.
do, and by that time, you guys had jumped up and were, you know, doing whatever you're doing.
We need to move on.
We need to move on. So we have that gas incident. I believe the next meeting day, she was fine, and then the one after, you know, she did it again. So over the span of about 2 months' time, you know, off and on, about half the time, about half the time, she was passing gas. What I noticed began happening after he said he would speak to them, and I can see that he did. I can tell that he did. The waving the hands and all that quit. Thank you very much. That quit. What started to happen was Tracy, at first it was in response to gas. When my dog would have gas, when it would, you know, I would detect gas, I would immediately get up and take her outside. One, to let some fresh air into the room. Two, if she had more to do, to, you know, try to clear that. If she had, to do something outside that she, maybe that would clear it. I would try to, and I would spend a good amount of time outside, then I would come back. And I'm hoping it's done, it's cleared. She started popping the door open. At first it was in response to the gas. Totally get it. Totally get it. Naturally. But it changed. Then she started opening the door as soon as we arrived. And she didn't do that to anybody else, for any other student. She started opening the door, and it started becoming noticeable. And it became more than a way to deal with the gas. It became something different. And I noticed it, but this is not my first rodeo. And I'm just like, well, I'm going to ignore it. The days are nice outside, and I'm going to ignore it. Because, really, in the scheme of things, it's stupid and petty. Who cares? If she wants the door open, whatever her reasons, let her. That was fine for a while. And then I got to the place where I got her fixed. The problem was solved. Directly after, it wasn't even set in stone. I like it to go for a week before it's set in stone. It was just shy of a week. She had not had gas. I'm sitting there, and my daughter had left her computer at the desk, and this is my Mother's Day gift from my mother. I didn't have one, and my daughter left hers, and I'm going to play with it. Well, I accidentally started up a game, and I didn't realize it had sound to it, had music to it, and I didn't realize the speakers were on, and it caused a bit of a disruption. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, how do I turn it off? Click, shut it down. A couple of minutes later, Tracy stands up and says, I need to ask you to take your dog outside. She's having gas. And a couple of her students said something like, yeah.
I've never talked to you.
Did that occur?
I've never talked to you. I've never talked to you because
You asked me to go outside
I've never talked to you.
because the dog had gas.
That's not
Brianna, am I relaying an occurrence that actually happened?
absolutely not true.
Paula, the other thing to remember about a meeting like this is that we are certainly here to listen and to give you an opportunity to share with us your point of view and your concerns. But our staff shouldn't feel that something that Paula says is going to be interpreted as the only perspective or the only truth. So I think it'll just we'll reach the conclusion of this meeting sooner if we let Paula sort of share what she has to say, and then we'll have an opportunity to also, give our point of view, and, they're probably not going to be the same. And that's normal.
Is it okay for Tracy at times when she
Absolutely.
feels it's, the
Absolutely.
charge is just to respond?
She could say it's incorrect,
Because I
she's
find-
inaccurate or incorrect.
Mrs. Brown is a very professional person here.
Definitely.
Okay.
I agree.
Anyway, I was sitting there, she stood up, she was teaching, and she said, I need to ask you to take the dog outside, it has gas. I didn't detect any gas. I didn't think she had gas. But I'm like, if I say something back, it's going to cause a problem. It's going to cause a scene in the classroom. If I say, no, she's not having gas, whatever, and it's like, I was ready to go outside for my own personal reasons anyway. So I'm just like, look, I'm just going to go outside. I'll ask Brianna, because Brianna was a matter of feet away from me. I'll ask Brianna if she smelled anything, but I'm going to go outside. So I went outside, and I sat at the bench with this. I remember the glare was on the screen. I was really having a fit with the glare on the screen. There was another student that I'm friendly with that I talked to that came out. She was kind of shocked about what Tracy had done. And it continued from there. And keep in mind, the problem's solved. The dog is not having gas. Continuing from that day, when we would arrive, and the weather started turning really nasty. When we would arrive, Tracy would open the door within minutes of us arriving. And when she'd open the door, the kids in the classroom already had on sweaters and coats prior to the door being opened. I tried to ignore it. I was really cold. It was like one of the first days it was cold. Ann Rose came in, and she had closed her door to her office saying about how cold it was. And Ann Rose said, oh, she's busy. I said, well, she's with my daughter, and she's got her door closed because it's so cold. I can't go in there, but, I'm sure you could go in there. She said, no, I'll wait. The next cold day, she opens the door. Now, I've got a neck injury I'm still dealing with. It causes pain down my neck and then down my arm, shoulder and arm. On that day, I'm trying to think was that day. The next day, she opened the door. It was really cold. I had the flu. I had a really bad flu going, and I didn't want to be coughing, spreading it around, I wanted to be with Brianna and attend to Brianna, but I didn't want to be coughing, spreading it around. I had the flu really bad, and my throat was really irritated. And she opened the door, and I sat there for about 5 minutes trying to ignore it, but I was getting to where I was going to cough. And so I got up quietly, and I just went over and shut the door. And this is when things became real crystal clear to me. As soon as I shut the door, I went and sat down. She stood up, walked over, and opened the door again. And I asked her, I said, is there any particular reason, pressing need to have this door open? Because, I've got a really bad flu, and it's irritating my throat. And she stumbled and stuttered for a second, verbally. And I said, it's stuffy in here. Well, the temperature that day I checked, an hour later it was 42 degrees when I got home. So it was about 40 degrees, and everybody had their coats and sweaters on before she opened the door, and it was worse after. How can a room, that's in 40-degree weather where people are wearing coats and sweaters, how can that be stuffy?
Well, it is a 340 square foot room, and sometimes there's 8 to 10 people in there. And I think Tracy was concerned the day you were...
It was not stuffy in there. It was not stuffy in there.
I'd say it was stuffy in
it's
there.
about a
I only did what
No student complained audible to me. She went and then she shut her office because it was too cold. Oh my God, it's too cold. Didn't she comment to you that it was too cold?
Mm-hmm. I asked her why she closed the door, and she's like, it's way too cold outside.
Right, it's not stuffy. People, in stuffy rooms, you don't keep on your coat and your sweater. In stuffy rooms, these people had coats and sweaters on before I even arrived, and then she opened the door. So I walked out and tried to go see you about it. You were not available. I went out to the car to try to stop myself, soothe my throat, stop myself from coughing. But, it's lonely and it's cold in the car. And so I finally came back in the room, and I began to cough. And cough. And I coughed for about an hour, every few minutes. And every cough exacerbated my neck injury, so pretty soon the pain was running down my shoulder and my arm. So I went over to Ethel and asked her what Tracy's name was. And I knew what was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen, and I did it anyway. I asked Tracy's name, and I knew that was going to trigger off crap.
to ask what her name was. She gave me her first name, didn't want to give me her last name. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I sat back down. As soon as I sat back down, Ethel walked over, I asked, this was right before I had to leave, I asked her what Tracy's name was. I sat back down, then Ethel walked over, shut the door, and Tracy left it alone. And I said, okay, I told Brian, okay, the next school time, something's going to happen. It's going to blow. And that is when I came in and I was told that we were to be moved next door by the principal.
Yes.
And she didn't want to tell me why. I'm like, why? Yeah, but why?
The principal talked to you in private, and it was like you guys were stuck there, and I just I wanted you to just come outside and I can tell you what was going on. But then I thought you were coming here, and I'm like, hey, it's this one, and you went that way, and then I realized, oh, I'm
not having any of it.
I know, but I didn't want to go.
I finally asked her, so this is all about the dog, and she said, yeah. And I
don't know if you said all of that.
My words were.
Dog, and I didn't know what to say. You go, the dog, and I said.
My exact words. So this is all about the dog, and you said yes. So anyway, I was not going to have this, and I again walked down to your office. The lady there was resistant in telling me anything. I asked for you, and she said you were unavailable. And I said, well, is he around unavailable? Can I wait? Is he gone unavailable? Well, he's gone for the rest of the day. I said.
She kind of can't give out that information. I mean, it's he was gone on personal business that week, and so she can't really.
Well, I wanted to know.
Couldn't tell you.
She was trying to figure out whether she should wait or not.
If this is worth waiting.
Oh yeah, okay.
Or contacting him somewhere else, calling, or what? She finally told me he's gone for the whole day. I said, oh.
The whole week.
All right. So I go home. I don't think this is about allergies. Although, when she made that statement to me, a couple of the kids that were at her desk turned around and said, yeah. And they started giving me dirty looks. And from then on, I received, the occasional dirty looks from these children that were at her desk. I'm sure somebody has said something. I don't think this is about allergies. I think this was about gas, a temporary medical condition. It was solved. She kept up. I think this is more about that Tracy doesn't want either the dog in her room, or she may not like me personally, for all I know. She doesn't want us in the room, and if she admitted that there was no gas, there would be no hook to hang your hat on. So she's not going to admit, she's not going to tell you. I'm sure that she told you the dog was having gas each and every time.
Actually, Tracy, real quickly, this is a very clear issue for me, and I have no problem saying this. This is a black and white issue. This is all about allergies.
Does this child go into anaphylactic shock when they have allergies?
Tracy came to me with a student.
No, I just want to know.
With an allergy.
I can see this is going nowhere. I'm leaving.
Yeah, go ahead, Dad. I'll take care of this.
Okay, but the reason
I got this. You know I do.
This is the allergy.
All right, here.
Let's. All right. Okay.
No, I would like to go. No, I'm taking control. This is my meeting. I have documents here.
Okay. Just give them to me.
Attorneys for school districts typically have a few stock arguments to persuade judges from permitting children to bring in their service animals, which would also apply to parents bringing in their service animals. At least one other child or teacher is allergic to the animal, e.g. dog dander. And you can't necessarily be allergic from being across the room from a dog. This is by a lawyer, by the way. This is a very interesting argument, but I've never seen it successfully applied in school settings. This argument, however, has been used in business settings and, to my knowledge, has always failed. In any event, assuming that there is a student with a documented allergy, there may be workarounds. Let's see, is there another one? Okay, here's another one. Generally, allergies and a generalized fear are not valid reasons for denying access to individuals accompanied by service animals. For example, the Office of Civil Rights, Department of Ed, determined that one district violated Section 504 by refusing to consider whether a service animal should be part of a student's IEP because one teacher, quote unquote, had significant allergy reactions to the dog's presence in school. It's not an excuse.
So, Paul, if we don't give each other the right to share our points of view.
I'm just sharing my point of view. I'm sharing what the law says.
And I hope you would agree that we've listened. But I think Tracy, I think Dr. Littlefair, I think the staff deserves the opportunity to share their point of view without you saying that they're not going to tell the truth or that they're going to give excuses. In other words, don't assume bad faith on their part. They have a right.
I've seen it already. I'm sorry.
And I'm not saying you haven't, but in this case, I would like to hear Tracy, I would like to hear the staff just share, because you've said quite a bit, and I think we deserve a right to say something.
Sure, have at it.
Okay, well, I guess that first charge with this Amador High situation, I think I was speaking to my student, not to the adult that was in the conversation, because I would never speak to anyone, I would never yell or speak to anyone with disrespect, but I think my student was saying things that were like hearsay, and I wanted to tell my student that they shouldn't be talking out loud as you guys probably were, from what I remember from that conversation, since I could hear it, that, and there were a lot of other students sitting around the table. We have like 4 different, teachers and their students all there. I didn't want that to become like where everybody was just talking about the situation that people really didn't know about, maybe fully. So I was speaking to my student, not to you.
Why were you looking directly at me when you said it?
You seemed to be kind of upset with me, and I don't even know you, and I'm not upset with you. I'm not upset with your dog. I'm not upset with anything. I'm also, I'm sitting there, as I said, with my student who has severe anxiety. She's even going to try going back to Argonaut for a couple weeks at the beginning of the school year. I've been trying to get her to go back, and she's smart. I'm sure just like your daughter. I want her to be in a school setting. So, we're here. I would never say anything against anyone, but, I did open the door. It was very stuffy in there to me, and to my student. There's a lot of different smells, and I would never tell you to leave. I would never hurt your feelings like that, but I did want to compromise by keeping the door open. My students asked me, especially when you started just coughing uncontrollably. You were very ill that day, it looked like. And they were, they didn't want to be in a room with the door shut when, there's a lot of coughing going on.
I didn't start coughing until after you opened the door, and I warned you that was going to occur.
But the thing
and you said,
I can't
sorry.
discriminate against anyone in that room. Not your daughter, not you, not my students. I have 2 sisters that are there, they're there for 2 hours. We're here before you get there, and they're there till 10:30. So it's not that easy. It's not,
So your students asked you each and every time we arrived, to open the door?
My students, as I said...
I wonder if these students, when the district asks them, if they're going to be willing to confirm that.
It's their family. I'm just doing what they have asked me.
I'm wondering.
Discriminate against...
I'm just wondering if the district asks them that, if, that's going to be a confirmed thing.
And so, because this is an IEP meeting, and your daughter hasn't been in school,
Right.
we have an obligation to ask that she return to school, and if you have any requests that you would like to make in order for that to happen, I'd like to know what those requests are.
Are you about done?
Well,
I'm about done.
I'm
about done.
I didn't feel that everybody got a chance to speak just now. I felt that...
Yeah, he didn't. He can talk.
Well, and I know the gentleman left the room in all due respect, but what I was trying to say was, the only reason I moved her in this room, Brianna, was because one of those 2 sisters is allergic to the dog. That was the only reason I did that. I wasn't out to punish you for pre-March gas or the animal. I'm not like that. I think you even sensed that about me. I only moved the dog because in the nice student, because of the sister, one of the 2 girls is allergic to the dog. I would never move a dog because of gas.
That's weird. How is she allergic? What I just wondered, what does it do to her?
Chance to explain myself.
Let him speak.
Please. And my concern is that Brianna's right to an education is being denied by her own mother, who is sitting in a room right now, in a room where Brianna could be for the last 3 weeks, learning from a great teacher, But Brianna's right to an education has been denied by her own mother.
Okay,
That's it.
we're done. We're done. I'm calling the IEP
That was not necessary.
on the reasons of stupidity.
All right, then we.
Can you hold these and keep them going?
Why didn't
Never
you,
brought her to
why,
school.
okay, why
Mom, we're not gonna argue with them. I've had enough.
Called her mother 3 weeks in a row, she never brought her to school.
I'm telling you, you did not want to be here because you didn't feel welcome here.
Let the legal people deal with this, Mom.
Why didn't you choose the time that you came in and
Can I
That would not have caused
Sit.
conflict.
Sit, Jeff.
Because when you were
Sit.
entering-
Sit.
Why didn't that affect
Thank you.
anybody? Let's have her come in at a different time.
We have maximum.
I am calling the meeting on the reason of stupidity. We're done.
That would have worked.
We are done. No, you know what? You're not malicious. No. No, I don't want anything from anybody. I've sat and listened to spinning and lies, and I'm tired.
But this is all facts. These are her
I
credits.
understand. I
You guys want
understand.
that? So you know-
Is that her end of year grades?
Pardon?
Those are her end of year grades.
This is, yeah, what she's accumulated so far.
You know what? The legal people might want that.
This
Yeah.
is what she's
Foos.
accumulated so far.
Foos.
So you can,
Yeah, I need that. Thank you.
yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Legal people want it. Foos, come on, Mom. Let's go. We're done. We're done with this. Yeah, well, you know what? He just proved a point for us, the principal himself. Come on, let's go.